on, y'all. Welcome in. Rivals down south here on Stadium. Very happy holidays from all of us here on Stadium as well. I'm T-Bob Hebert. He is SEC Mike, host of That SEC Podcast, the highest rated SEC podcast on Apple. And we got a lot to get to today. It may almost be Christmas, but the college football news cycle has no breaks nowadays, Mike, and I absolutely love it. As always, if you want to get involved, youtube.com/watchstadium, or you can submit your viewer questions at watchstadium.com/submit. Mike, let's go ahead and dive in. And yes, we will get to LSU news here in a bit, but first, Florida State, well, it would appear the entire school is attempting to enter the transfer portal, as the Board of Trustees met earlier this morning and voted unanimously to file suit against the ACC, challenging the grant of rights and the $130 million exit fee, and is looking to get out of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Now, I want to be, let's just get some basics down in case you're catching up to this story late. The ACC signed a pretty ironclad deal with its schools back in 2019. This deal runs through 2036. In this deal, the conference owns every school's media rights. That's the actual expensive part of this equation. Florida State wants out. They can handle paying the $130 million that it would take to just get out of the conference, the exit fee. Where it gets tricky, buying back those rights would drive that price tag up to somewhere in the range of $570 million. Many ACC schools have had lawyers poring over this document as much as they can, looking for loopholes. No loopholes have been found yet, but it appears that, well, as board chairman Peter Collins says, quote, "I believe this board has been left no choice but challenge the legitimacy of the ACC grant of rights and its severe withdrawal penalties. None of us like being in this position. However, I believe we have exhausted all possible remedies within the conference, and we must do what we believe is best for Florida State, not only in the short term, but in the long term." A lot to unpack here. Mike, first off, how much of an impact do you think the playoff snub played and then finally fully going for this?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly, this has been bubbling up. This was all a big talking point when the college football season started. So that does kind of feel like the final straw that broke the camel back, going undefeated, still not making the college football playoff. But I don't feel bad for Florida State, T-Bob. They had their opportunity in the 90s to join the SEC. Bobby Bowden wanted no part of it. It was too difficult. I like cruising in the ACC. And heck, I mean, they're going to a 12-team format next season, so you go undefeated, you'll get right in there. But Florida State has no place in the SEC. They're not wanted in the SEC. The Big Ten may be dumb enough to take Florida State and all their shenanigans and all their behind the scenes wheeling and dealing. But if they want that trouble, go ahead, take that headache on. The SEC will never have Florida State as a member. I'll tell you that right now.
Mike, do not hold the son accountable for the sins of the father. What Bobby Bowden did in the 90s is immaterial to this conversation. And look, let's be clear. While you're right about the playoffs being the straw that broke the camel's back, because the one salient argument against FSU outside of the Travis injury, which I think is flawed, the injury one, but the one salient argument was the strength of schedule, right? Like that really, I think, was Alabama's most legitimate claim. That's a direct result of being in the ACC. But this is not about the playoffs. This is about, like everything else in life, money. How is Florida State supposed to compete at the level that it desires to with all the other best teams in the country, the best teams in the SEC, the best teams in the Big Ten, when in a few years here, because of this bad ACC TV deal, they will be making nearly half of what their direct opponents are making? Like, you are a school that views themselves like an LSU, an Ohio State, a Georgia, whoever you want to name, and yet we're telling you, okay, well, they're going to be getting $90 million a year, $80 million a year. You got to make it work on 40. That's an untenable situation. So you don't, and look, I get it. Like Florida State, if you ask, okay, which Uber conference do they fit best in? Big 12 makes no sense. That's a lateral move. So it's down to the Big 10 or the SEC. The SEC does not make sense from a TV angle necessarily, but it is a perfect fit geographically. So you think Florida State means more to the Big 10 is what you're telling me?
Well, I'm just telling you that they add no value to the SEC other than the geography, like you said. And I get it. They're a football school, and that's what the SEC is full of SEC football schools. But Florida State, again, no value. The leadership is poor. The grandstanding we're seeing here, this is not unique. I mean, this is year after year after year. Florida State does this type of shenanigans. They're trying to get out of the ACC. They're making it, and it's been very public what they're doing. This will not add value to the SEC. Everything I'm hearing, T-Bob, the only school that the SEC truly covets is North Carolina.
Yep.
And they're not going to add just one of them because that's going to make an odd number. I think based on everything I'm hearing, T-Bob, I don't know that they have their heart set on another program, but it will be North Carolina, and it will likely be one of the Virginia schools or possibly NC State. I don't think it would be NC State, but I think it would more likely be Virginia Tech. But I don't know that they have that finalized. It will not be Florida State.
Well, and why this matters so much, again, in a layman's understanding of all of these things, if Florida State would get a way out, it's almost like a giant Mexican standoff. As soon as one person figures out a way out, other schools can then leave, right? And so all bets would be off. Clemson would probably want to join the Big Ten. I mean, you're right. From a television market standpoint, the SEC covets North Carolina and Virginia, and so likely that's where they would want to go. The Big Ten has already showed you that they are very willing to be a more national conference. So I agree with you. It actually makes all the sense in the world for maybe like an FSU Clemson combination to then join the Big Ten, maybe even throw in a couple of teams on top. Does this end with the death of the ACC, or you think this is just yelling at the clouds here?
I think it was the death of the ACC when they added Cal and Stanford and who was it, SMU. You know what I mean? I mean, it's illogical what they're doing. They're just grabbing teams just so they can hold this thing together, and at least credit Florida State to some degree for challenging and calling the BS when they see it, because that's all this is, adding these other teams. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that this is good for college football. I think at some point we're going to have to go to what Chip Kelly was talking about about a week ago, where most of the power programs in football just go independent, and then they essentially play an SEC, an ACC, a Pac-12 type schedule. I think that's where we're headed, T-Bob, and it's just all this shenanigans we're going to have to deal with before we eventually get there.
Yeah, let's be painfully clear here on Rivals. I believe I speak for all of us when I say we think it is incredibly stupid that the Oregon softball team has to go play the Purdue softball team and vice versa, right? This should be football only. You should have your own football league. Now, let's talk to the team that I know very well, the LSU Tigers. And I don't appreciate you, Mike. You seem to be taking a little too much pleasure in Tiger fans' pains today, as, look, Christmas is right around the corner, okay? If you were going to ask LSU fans what they wanted for Christmas when they opened their stocking, I don't think they thought they would find Matt House in there. I think they thought they would find Mike Denbrock. So yes, the coordinator change for LSU has finally happened, only it's the exact opposite of what any Tiger fan would want. And Matt House still being paid $2 million a year to be the defensive coordinator. Mike Denbrock now being snatched away by the Notre Dame Fighting Irish after putting together the best offense in the country. A symbolic, but also a very effective win for Notre Dame, stealing away Denbrock from their former head man.
Yeah, and I apologize, T-Bob, if I seem a little jaded, but I'm the fool that picked LSU at last offseason to win the national championship. So maybe I'm a little bit down on them more than usual, because to me, they were such a massive disappointment for all the months and months of hype I was giving them. But, you know, someone made this parallel. This reminds them a lot of Florida in 2020. Unstoppable offense, just pathetic defense. And the following season, it's just not sustainable to keep that level of an offense. You're going to have to lean on that defense. And if Matt House is the one we're leaning on to salvage this program, I think we may be in dire straits. And I'm still trying to figure out, what do we have in Brian Kelly? Not that he's been bad at all. He's won the division title, won a Heisman trophies year 2, but you know, he came down here, he said it's national championship or bust, basically, and it feels like we are as far as ever from a national championship with Mike Denbrock and Jane Daniels leaving the program. I don't know where we are next year, and I think year 3 is going to be the defining year under Brian Kelly in Baton Rouge.
Well, and he's the one that set it up like that the entire time. He's been saying year 3 is when you make the leap, right? And to your point, you have the Alabama win outside of that on the 2-point version, which is great. Outside of that, you don't really have a big win. Like, you beat the teams you're supposed to, but what? Right. Winning in Como against Mizzou, that was your best win of the year? Feels a bit odd. I would also add that this Denbrock saga has a just delicious bit of Louisiana flair, because what is Louisiana without some corrupt politics getting involved? As there was recently an election for a new governor, right? So Jeff Landry wins the governorship. His party also controls the House and the Senate in the LA legislature. He also has the Attorney General's office in full concert with him. It is the first time since Huey P. Long where a single man has had this much power. Why this is relevant? Mike Denbrock agreed to a contract extension in December. That was never signed. Why? It was never approved by the Board of Trustees. The governor's office directly appoints the Board of Trustees. Landry, after being elected, affected basically a transitional freeze on everything, meaning they never got to meet. They never got to extend and give him the raise, meaning the buyout was cheaper for Notre Dame. Just one more element in the bad pie of why he is now heading to South Bend. That said, LSU has a lot of options here. They still have a great O-line. They got great weapons coming back. They got great young coaches on that staff, be it Joe Sloan, Cortez Hankton, who will co-coordinate the bowl game. And all eyes are now on Garrett Nussmeier. So a very eventful day here in Baton Rouge. Coming up next here on Rivals Down South, not every SEC fan got what they wanted for Christmas, as we just discussed. Coming up, let's do some last-minute shopping, give you some ideas for the SEC fan in your life. Welcome back to Rivals Down South. And look, not every SEC football fan got a 5-star quarterback or a Princely Umanmielen in the transfer portal. Looking at you, Ole Miss fans, you don't deserve anything for Christmas. You had quite the season already. But we're going to help out with some last-minute gifts here. And let's start by welcoming the 2 new members to the conference. Mike, what would you like to give the Texas Longhorns this holiday season?
I think a win in the playoff and obviously a trip to the national championship in Houston would be like a hometown event. What more could a Longhorn ask for?
I would like to give them a slice of humble pie. Okay. Because I'm getting a little sick of Texas. The old prodigal son returns from doing the drugs, getting all fat and happy. And now he comes swaggering back and we just feed him the fattened calf. Everybody just loves him so much. And what sucks is he probably looks like he's actually going to be great for a long time. Like why do I need to buy presents for my rich friend? I ain't getting Texas crap. Oklahoma. What would you get Oklahoma? I know what I'd get him, Mike. I'd get him anything. I'd get him a quarterback. I'd get him an OC. I'd get him an easier schedule. Maybe
they need help on the offensive line. Entire offensive line is not returning for the Oklahoma Sooners. That's going to be a rude awakening next fall in the SEC.
Next up on the list, Alabama. Nick Saban, I want you to look at me close. I know you're a big fan of Rivals. I saw all the red man in that Ferrari that you had with that recruit. Okay. I have 3 children. I will drain all the money out of my 3 children's college funds and buy you as much red man as you could possibly want for the I'll do anything, Nick. Please just retire. Any Christmas present you need. I'll catch a body for you. Anything, Nick. I'll do it. Please just go away.
Right. But what they want an extension for Nick Saban. That's what I wrote down. He's going to curse us all for another 10 years, probably.
No, just don't let Nick Saban get cyborg technology. That's the one thing that we have to keep out of his hand. If he learns how to transfer his consciousness, Mike, we will never win again. You know what I get Mizzou and Eli Drinkwitz and company? And this is a second really good year in a row. Because right now, I get it. Mizzou's the hot ticket. They're the hot item, and it looks to be sustainable. But we've seen how quickly these things can go awry, right? It's not unlike Tennessee this year. Not a disastrous year by any means. But for Mizzou, I think the key for them being comfortable and really feeling good about this, not just a flash in the pan year, they need 2 of them things.
Right. And to your point, I mean, it's very difficult to sustain. They're killing it in the portal. They just re-signed both their coordinators, so things are looking up. But the heart and soul of that team, Cody Schrader, I'd give him an extra year of eligibility because he's going to be tough to replace.
Speaking of replacing Ole Miss, I mean, like I said, they look under the Christmas tree. The presents are overflowing. The collective has money coming out of its ears. Lane Kiffin's cool. He's got this golden retriever and everything going on. I'm not buying Ole Miss anything. Nothing for me.
There's still a crown jewel out there for him, T-Bob, and his name's Walter Nolan.
No,
they're trying.
Don't give him Walter Nolan.
Oregon, Bama, Georgia, they all want Walter Nolan. This is the recruit everybody wants. Give him to Ole Miss.
I mean, actually, I'll keep it simple. I'll give him cocaine because every Ole Miss fan I know loves cocaine. Like, I mean, that's just true. I know what LSU fans want, and it's head. It's a head to roll. It's blood on the streets, Mike. LSU fans desperately want a new defensive coordinator.
Right. I just wrote down defense. I don't care how you do it, whether it's players, it's coaching, whatever. Just give us a defense with a pulse, and we may have made the college football playoff this year.
Mike, given that I love you so much and me and you, vibe in so many ways, all of our nerdy interests, movies and everything, this Christmas, I would like to give you the gift of Nico living up to the hype, right? Living up to that contract, being the 5-star quarterback he's meant to be. And because if he is, Tennessee will be a year in and year out 10-win team in his tenure.
Right. And that's exactly what I had written down for Tennessee. Just Nico, please God, live up to the hype. They just went out and got a Tulane transfer. They're surrounding you with talent. It's all on his shoulders. Great place to be for a young guy.
The Florida Gators, how risque do I want to go with this joke? No, I think the Florida Gators need to take a long nap. I'll just say sleeping pills. I would give Gators fans sleeping pills, kind of a wake me up when this is all done, when Black Spot Billy is gone. Yeah, maybe a lot of margaritas. There you go, to take a nice extended blackout break so they could just get through whatever the rest of Napier's tenure is and then move on to the next era.
Right. I like to cut straight to the chase, T-Bob. I don't like to dance around it. Just give them a new coach because that's what they need. And it's coming eventually. Just give it to them now. Let the new era start.
I think A&M fans are relatively pleased with what they have. And granted, well, the wallets may be a little light come this Christmas. For Texas A&M fans, I'll give them the gift of hope because I think they have it. I think they've lived in purgatory for many years now, and I've already given them the gift of strength and conditioning coordinator Tommy Moffitt, and I think that's going to pay huge dividends. So A&M fans, enjoy this hopeful offseason as you move into a new era.
I think the perfect gift for an Aggie, T-Bob, is for Texas to embarrass themselves in the playoff. That's all they want.
True. And then finally, we arrive at Auburn. And look, Hugh Freeze is struggling to stay up at night. He's so tired. Speaking of cocaine, he doesn't strike me as especially, but look, maybe a pot of coffee, maybe some Red Bull, maybe some escorts, whatever Hugh needs to stay active and stay on that Cruton trail. We got you here on Rivals, Hugh.
How about a prevent defense? That's what I'm giving them because they would have knocked off Alabama if they knew how to run it.
A four-man rush, exactly. A time machine. A time machine to go back just a few weeks and stop this current nightmare that is unfolding. Also, stocking stuffer for Auburn, a Michigan win over Alabama. That would go in the same vein as Texas A&M. That would go a long way for our friends there on the Plains. All right, coming up next here on Rivals Down South, who's getting coal in their stocking? Figure it out. Watch Stadium. Welcome back to Rivals Down South, here on the edge of Christmas break. But first, it's time for the naughty list. Which coaches find themselves on the wrong side of Santa's ledger this holiday season? And I don't quite know what to make out of Jimbo Fisher. He's a bit like a walking double negative, right? In that he was so naughty and so bad that he somehow got rewarded for it. Like, yeah, he may find coal in his stocking, but you crack open the coal and there's gold bullion. as Jimbo Fisher gets fired and is now enjoying what a Christmas. 75 mil coming your way. You're not having to do signing day. You're not having to worry about the Pirtle. Like, Jimbo Fisher has to be on top of the world right now, Mike.
Right. I'm surprised more programs didn't take Tennessee's lead when they wanted to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt and his $30+ million buyout. Just find out what he's done wrong. Tell the NCAA we don't have to pay his buyout. That's what I was expecting there in College Station, but I guess that's bad for business. But yeah, I mean, he has got to be the leader in the clubhouse of Cole, and it's really not even Jimbo. It's A&M fans that bought in to all of Jimbo and his BS there. That was just a disaster from the moment he was hired. He never did anything.
Oh, Black Spot Billy, you knew he was going to end up on this list. Losing to Arkansas at home, wearing black jerseys in the Florida noontime sun, losing 5 in a row to end the year, half your original signing class now in the Pirtle, seeing your much vaunted recruiting class drop from 3 to 18 on signing day. Very naughty boy, that Billy.
Right. Well, at least he got his quarterback. That's the one thing now he's got to hang his hat on. Will DJ Lagway be ready next year? No, because they got another quarterback, Graham Mertz. But, yeah, I mean, he has buried this once proud program, T-Bob, where we're sitting here saying, well, 5-7, that ain't too bad for Florida. Maybe we can get to 7 if everything breaks right and we upset 3 teams. Maybe we can win 7 ball games next year. I can't believe what has become of the Florida Gators.
DJ Lagway ain't finishing at Florida either. Like, let's be clear about that. Nobody's been naughtier this last football season than LSU defensive coordinator Matt House. You entered the season with 2 preseason All-Americans in your front 7 and Harold Perkins Jr. You made Harold Perkins Jr. look like a normal football player. You made Mekhi Wingo a non-factor. You took a once proud LSU defense and gave them the worst stop rate in the entire Power 5 for nearly the entire year. Take your lumps, Matt House.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many teams where I watch him, T-Bob, and I wonder, hey, what's this coach's buyout? Because is he coaching for the buyout, or what in the world are they doing? This is the worst LSU defense I've ever seen in my life. It's inexcusable, and again, it held them from being in the college football playoff contention, which they deserve to be in.
It ruined a championship offense. It really did. Well, despite that, then on a positive note, Merry Christmas, Mike. Merry Christmas, everyone out there. We love you. We'll see you on Tuesday here at Rivals Down South.